Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. And we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations, looking usually at either a lesson from morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And although the last couple of days we've been primarily focused on St. Paul's letter to the Romans, and we'll get back to that later in the week, I wanted to talk today about our lesson from St. Luke's Gospel, which is appointed for morning prayer. We start out today's lesson with something very interesting, and that is Jesus tells a parable about a man who owns a vineyard, and he lets it out to people who to do the work. And then when he goes to collect what is due to him as the owner of the vineyard, they decide to do away with those people who've been sent to get the money from the people who've let it out, and they treat them shamefully. They destroy them, and then ultimately he sends his son, assuming that they would respect the son, and they shamefully treat that one, and they put him to death as well. And it says right in the text that the leaders of the Jewish authorities at that point realize that Jesus is telling them this parable against them. Those people who were sent out to get what was due to God would represent the prophets, and then ultimately, of course, God sends his own son, and they would treat him just terribly, and ultimately put Jesus Christ to death. So they rightfully discern that Jesus is talking about the reality that what has been entrusted in the original covenant is now going to be changed because of the incorporation of the Gentiles into a new covenant, which will be sealed in the blood of Jesus. No longer is salvation based on whether or not you are a blood relative of Abraham, although those who are Jewish, those who are parts of the original covenant, are certainly welcome and included in the new covenant. But the new covenant is in the blood of Jesus, and therefore the new covenant comes through faith in Jesus Christ. And so what's interesting is it goes from there. Once they realize that Jesus is talking this way, they decide that they have to find something to accuse him of. And so they say that they're going to send people out to try to quiz him and to try to trap him up. And then we get to this point right after that particular lesson. And they asked him, saying, Master, we know that thou sayest and teachest rightly, neither acceptest thou the person of any, but teachest the way of God truly. So they're buttering him up. Do they really believe this? Probably not. Is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness, and said unto them, Why tempt ye me? Show me a penny. Whose image and superscription hath it? And they answered and said, Caesar's. And he said unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. And they could not take hold of his words before the people, and they marveled at his answer, and held their peace. Now, of course, this is a trick question. We talked a little bit about Sunday when we had the story about them throwing the merchants out of the temple. We talked a little bit about how the money changers had to change money in order for the temple tax to be paid in a temple coinage. Why? Because Roman money has an image of Caesar on it, and because Caesar declared himself a god, and plus the fact that the Jewish faith does not allow for graven images, they did not want the people to pay for their temple tax and for their tithe using money which they felt was blasphemous. So here, they're trying to trip Jesus up again, hoping that if he says, yes, you should pay their taxes, then they can say, look, Jesus is no friend of the Jewish people because he's in favor of our overlords. And besides, look at this, he's supporting Rome. And of course, if he says, don't pay your taxes, then they can present him to Jesus to the Roman authorities and say, this guy's telling people not to pay their taxes. And you probably know the government doesn't like that either. So they're trying to trip him up. What they don't expect is the answer that he gives, which is, of course, whose image is on the coin? Caesar. Well, go ahead and give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Now, the trick is that a lot of us get caught up in the mistake of thinking that somehow the things that are Caesar's, things that belong to the government, are over here, and the things that belong to God are over there, okay? And that they're somehow separate. The reality is that the things that are Caesar's, the things that are the government's are here, but the things that are God's encompass it all, right? And in fact, the things that are Caesar's, the operation of the government, those things will come and go, right? The governments will change, leadership will change, the Caesars will change, but all that we do, and so we have responsibilities in that, and St. Paul talks all about that in his letters as well. But those things will change. But the things that are God are everything. They include this and everything else. And so how we deal with this, how we deal with the coinage, how we deal with paying taxes, how we deal with interacting with the government must be influenced by our faith in Jesus Christ, must be influenced by our belief in God. When people say that somehow you should not let your faith or your religious belief influence how you see government, you're not doing your religion right if you do that. Because religion's not just something you do on Sunday and then ignore the rest of the week. Your faith is expressed in your religious belief. And if you take your faith seriously, and I pray and I hope that you do, then it certainly must influence the way that you interact with the government and how you try to influence the government. It is vitally important, friends. We can't just be Sunday-only Christians and then do the government thing and try to influence the government using some other set of principles. They can't be two separate things, folks. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. You have to pay your taxes. You have to be involved and do your civic duty. But always remember, the things that are God's are everything that's Caesar's and then some. May God bless you on this wonderful Wednesday.